Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great Sunday morning already. And today we're continuing talking about different people in the Bible who showed a lot of faith, and God showed a lot of faith to them through their journey. So today we're going to talk about Esther. And Esther is a queen, and I'm just really disappointed today because I thought I had a crown and I was going to wear this crown so I could just represent Queen Esther well. But I don't have a crown, but that's okay because we'll still talk about her story. Anywho, so Esther, she's got a whole book in the Bible, not just a chapter. She's got a whole book, just like Ruth did. And Queen Esther, her story takes place in a place called Persia, and there's this king. His name is Xerxes, and King Xerxes, he's throwing a really big party one night. Well, not one night. It was a week-long party. He's throwing this week-long party, and his wife, Queen Vashti, is also throwing a party, but it's for the ladies. And I'm sure that this party that all the ladies were at was way more fun than King Xerxes' party. Yeah, I think so. Probably more fun to be with all the ladies. That's just my opinion. Okay, so on the last day of the party, King Xerxes wanted everyone to just know how pretty Queen Vashti was. So he was just like, hey, go get Queen Vashti. I want everyone to see how pretty she is. And she said no. Like, no, not okay. And the king was furious, and it says he burned with anger. So he was mad, really mad at her. So the king and his buddies, they were not happy, and they decided they needed a plan. And I don't know why his buddies thought they needed to be involved, but they did, because they were upset that Vashti said no, and they didn't want other royal ladies standing up and saying no to any other royal guys. So they're like, we need a plan. We gotta get these people in line. No, they can't say no to us. How dare she? Anyway, they decided that Vashti would never be allowed in the presence of Xerxes, and they were going to basically find a new queen for Xerxes. So, interesting. Poor Vashti. She kind of like got kicked out of the coop, kind of, so to speak. But then, in Esther chapter 2, we find out that the king and his buddies like put out this big announcement, like, send us, hey, ladies, come to the palace. There's going to be things. Maybe you get to be the king's wife. It's really weird. I'm gonna be honest with you, Esther's story kind of, I just find it a little strange sometimes, but God works through it, and we can be pretty thankful that we live in 2020, and we don't have all of this weirdness happening. But anywho, so young women from all over the land, they came to the palace, and they would be given beauty treatments, and whoever the king liked would become the new queen. So there was a man, and his name was Mordecai, and he had a niece named Esther. Yeah. Esther was one of the women that was taken to the palace and was presented to Xerxes. It took a whole year before Esther even met Xerxes. That just tells you how like intense their beauty treatments were. They took a whole year. She gave up a whole year of her life to do like a spa year, basically. Um, and yeah, then she met King Xerxes. So King Xerxes met Esther, and he's like, yeah, I like her. Make her queen. That there's not a whole lot of like the process on which he chose the queen. It's just the Bible's just like, she's the queen now. And she got a really big crown, and they threw a really big party. But Esther, she had to keep a secret from King Xerxes. Do you guys have any idea what the secret might be? Do you think King Xerxes knows the Lord? Do you think Queen Esther knows the Lord and follows God? Yeah, Queen Esther, she was Jewish, and she believed in God, and believing in God was something that was not like crazy common or like not all that supported. And King Xerxes, no, didn't really know the Lord. So, and there are some people who like, they really, back in the day, people who believed in God were sometimes really hated by other people. So sometimes it wasn't something that you just like announced, like, I believe in God. Like sometimes people were scared to believe in God. And that's just really sad, right? And thankfully, we don't have to worry about that today. So Esther, she kept this big secret from Xerxes, and we know that the start of Esther's story is just absolutely eventful. We hear a little bit about Vashti, and we get to experience Esther just kind of like being taken like with all these other ladies to go do this beauty treatment thing, and she becomes queen like in 2 chapters of her book. Whoa! And she believed in God, and it had to be so scary to be taken to this king to find out if she was going to be his wife, and especially since the king didn't really know who God was. However, later in Queen Esther's story, she does some pretty amazing things to save people who also believed in God. And she did that because she was queen, so she used her position to save other people. And what's so important about Queen Esther's story is that, God was kind of silent at the beginning. And we don't hear God telling Esther to go to Xerxes. She just does. And I believe that Esther knew what she needed to do. And it may not have made a whole lot of sense. And sometimes God, he gives us a nudge. And we just have to follow that and see where it leads. And it could be a little confusing, especially when you don't really know why God's doing what he's doing or why he's placing you in certain places. But in God's timing, he reveals what he's doing, and it usually makes sense. Either like a year, 2 years, sometimes maybe a day after. It all depends on the situation. But that's one thing that's really cool about Esther is she didn't have like the audible voice of God saying, go do these things. She just did them. And somehow she was able to save a lot of people, which is so cool. And she just followed God with all of her heart, which is amazing. She's really listening well of what God was asking of her. So Esther, she needed a lot of faith to go through some of these things, right? She believed that God was with her and wouldn't leave her. And I would encourage you to read Esther 3 through 10. That's basically all of her story after she becomes queen. And that's a lot more details about how she saved other people who believed in God. So read Esther 3 through 10. And I think it'd be really cool if you maybe did like 2 chapters a day. That sounds reasonable, right? And you'd finish it pretty quickly. Or you could read more in a day. You could read all of it, whatever you want to do. Do those things. But yeah, I think you would really love to hear how Esther saved people. She's really cool. So go read the rest of Esther. And also, I hope that you are experiencing God in your life and looking for him and listening to those nudges and that voice of God, even if it's not all that clear sometimes, like it really isn't an Esther story. God's with you and he loves you. So celebrate ways that God is with you today, friends.